live on the air. I'm Richard Saile.
This is wild.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Loungetime. I'm your host, Rich Saile. 2 weeks are now in the books. Week 3 starts, technically it started Thursday, but some Sunday action starts tomorrow. We got some Week 2 action to cover, and I forgot this too. I said I'm going to mention this. Individual player awards I'm picking today too. So MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. Comeback Player of the Year might be a little hard. I don't know if I'm going to have that one specifically for this episode. I might save it for next week towards the end. And then Coach of the Year, that's usually tough to do. So we might have those two towards the end. But the main awards, I think, we're going to have covered as well. But we're going to do that more towards the end of the show. So to kick things off, we're going to cover some Week 2 action. We're going to go over Week 3 picks. And we're going to go over the individual awards to go over. So before we start, just want to get my picks card over here from last week. So, let's get started with some Week 2 action. Now, those of you that missed last week's episode, I did talk about the Thursday night game for both Week 1 and Week 2. So we usually do that into the weekend. We will be talking about Giants 49ers today as well. So just so the standard format is going forward, unless there's a different episode air date, we will be talking about the Thursday night football games on the current format we're on right now of the following week. So we're including that in this week's slate. So we're going to start with Week 2 action, okay? We're going to start with the Ravens and Bengals. I was watching another game that was also going on at once, so I didn't get to see a lot of this, but I did see some highlights when scores happened while I was watching another game, which I'm talking about later. But this game, Lamar Jackson, I have to say this, he actually played pretty well. 24-33 for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think his longest pass was 52 yards. I'm a little surprised that he actually played well against a defense that in most recent years, I don't want to say they've given him problems, but they held him in, I think, 19 points last year in Baltimore before he got hurt. I'm trying to remember what they did 2 years ago with him because I think he got in the 20s. I'm trying to remember 2 years ago, but that's not the point. He actually played well against a pretty good defense that I had as a very good defense that I raved a lot about last year. He played well. Now, it's one really good game that he had with the receivers he's had. I don't think I mentioned this last week. He didn't play that well against the Texans, but he played much better in this game. The running game, about 5 yards a carry. We're going to talk about their total offense and all that in a second. Aguilar, Mark Andrews had a touchdown each. Zay Flowers played really well. Like I said, he has receivers this year. There is no excuse. He has a better offensive coordinator that's actually going to let him throw the football. No excuses. You sat out 2 years, really the last half of the last 2 seasons. Now you got your money. Time to put up or shut up now. Okay? That's it. You have the receivers. You have a better coordinator that's going to let you throw the ball. Well, guess what? It's time for you to put up numbers. It's time for you to put up results. Okay? So, I'm getting that out there. All right? Jadeveon Clowney had a sack. The only sack for them in the game. Stone had an INT. I mean, again, they did have some big guys out, the Ravens. I think they have also some big guys also out this game against the Colts. They held them to 24. They were 9 of 14 on third down. But here's the scary part about the Ravens. They were almost balanced. I think they had like 180-something rushing yards, and I think, I don't know if I'm right on this, but I know that they were almost balanced in terms of passing yards to rushing yards. That's scary. Okay? If they can be balanced with Lamar's efficient throwing the football and downfield a couple times, if he can be accurate with that deep ball, and their running game can be producing like it's been the last couple years, this is a problem. They could make a deep run if they could get this together. But their defense has got to get healthy. That offensive line, again, they're more of a run blocking line, but if they can improve through the course of the season, this could be a team that makes a deep playoff run. I'm not completely there yet after 2 games, but I'm saying for this particular formula, if this is what they're trying to do, and they could be efficient and consistent with it, they can make a deep playoff run. But again, it's the Bengals, who we're going to talk about in a second, and the Texans. It's not a big sample size, and it's not, oh my God type of thing. No. I want to see when they play the really good teams, if they can do that. And the Bengals started out 0-2 last year. But again, I want to see how they do against really good playoff caliber teams. And the Bengals are one of them, but we'll talk about where they're at right now in a few. But again, the Colts next week, I'll mention that when I get to the picks. I'm not expecting a lot for that game. But I want to see when he plays the big boys. The big boys meaning Buffalo, Miami, the Jaguars, the Chiefs, all those big teams. I want to see when he plays one of them, how that works. Okay? Let's get to the Bengals part of things. 0-2 again. Joe Burrow, 27-41. 222 passing yards. 2 touchdowns and an interception. That calf injury is more serious than we thought it was. He might have rushed back too early. The Cleveland game was one thing, when they just couldn't do anything well and all that. 3 points. Everybody has those bad games. I can look back to Tom Brady and Buffalo in 2003. Okay? Before they got it rolling. Okay? A couple other ones too I can mention, but that's the first one that comes to mind. But Joe Burrow just doesn't look right. This is obviously a little different scenario because his calf injury is more serious. He had one carry, he had one scramble for 5 yards. He basically just is stuck to just being in the pocket. Now, that's mainly his game. I get that. But he doesn't look right. This is not Joe Burrow numbers we're accustomed to adjusting to, and we know what he's capable of. Something doesn't look right with him. And I think now I'm hearing, as of this morning, Jamar Chase said he's not expecting him to play for Monday night's game. If that's true, that's going to be a problem for them. Especially since they're 0-2 at the moment. Now, I don't know how long he could be out for. Obviously, they're going to take it a week-to-week injury situation. But if he's out, let's just say 4-6 weeks. Just hypothetically speaking, he's out 4 to 6 weeks. They're going to be in a deep world of trouble. Because in the AFC, I'm going to mention it for a couple other teams we're going to mention. You lose close games, you're out of the playoffs, essentially. One of those games is going to look back and you're going to be like, damn, we couldn't freaking hold on to that game. The AFC is that deep. You cannot have games like that. You cannot have games like that. You could be the 5 seed. You could be the 9 seed. One loss to anybody that's in the same playoff picture fighting as you late in the year, one game you're going to look back and go, damn, why don't we hold on? And there's moments in this game I'm going to mention for them, but I'm saying that injury, that's a big deal in terms of the grand scheme of things in the AFC. We mentioned with Rodgers' injury last week. That door opened for a lot of other teams that were just going to miss out. That door opened for them even further. Now, if Joe Burrow's out for an extended period of time, it still opens the door for other teams to be still in it. Okay? T. Higgins, 8 catches, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a really good game. Defense, they gave up 27, 1 quarterback hit, 1 QB hit on Lamar Jackson. No takeaways either. Now, I did mention that they lost some key guys in the secondary this past offseason. Jesse Bates, notably. Von Bell, I believe, was gone too. This is a young secondary, right? But their front four with Hubbard and Hendrickson, they're not a bad front four. They're not like a top-notch D-line. But to get 1 quarterback hit on Lamar Jackson is very concerning. And they made Deshaun Watson look pretty good last week too. We're going to talk about him in a little bit too, how he was this past game. The Bengals defense, the reason I'm not concerned with them right now is because, one, we don't know how long Joe Burrow will be missing games. The timetable of his injury. 2, they were 0-2 last year. And they made a pretty strong run for the last 15 games. I'm not saying it's going to be this year too, but at least we know. They were 0-2 last year and they were capable of doing it again. So, unlike another team we're going to mention later, 0-2, most cases you're in trouble. Not with them, they're not. If Joe Burrow gets back sooner and that injury doesn't bother him as much, they should be fine. But right now, eye test-wise, he doesn't look right. And he might not play Monday night. I'm going to say most likely he doesn't play Monday night. Charlie Jones had the punt return touchdown for 81 yards. That was big. But here's the difference in the game, too. Joe Burrow threw an interception in the red zone. And it was 2nd and 9 from the 18. And he's a great quarterback. He'll be fine. He'll learn more. I mean, he knows this. You cannot throw the ball in double coverage in the red zone when you're right there. I think they were, down 3 at that point? I think it was 13-10 when it happened, too. You can't throw that pick there. That was the difference in the game right there. 10 of 15 on third down is great, but that 1 interception, they were in the red zone. They were right. They could have made it a tie ball game. Bad throw in the red zone. Like I said, I don't think he looks right. I don't think he looks right. And I think he's going to be out at least I'm going to say, well, I'm looking at least 2 to 4 weeks. I think he's going to sit out. I don't think they want to rush him back. I think they want him to be able to heal that calf injury on his own because they've been 0-2. They have a pretty good team. Some of the teams they got coming up are a little shaky off the start too. The Rams are, competitive 1-1 Monday night. The Titans, I think I seen. The Seahawks, I think I seen. I think the Cardinals might have been in that mix too. So, yes, some of those teams have flaws and they're a little shaky. But for them, if they can go somehow, I don't think they're going to go 3-1, but if they can go 2-2, they might be all right up until he gets back. Because I think if he can get back for about week 7, week 8, they'll be fine. But if he's out longer than that, then that's a whole different ball game and everything. But Joe Burrow, he doesn't look right. That's the biggest takeaway. Seahawks and the Lions. One of 2 overtime games we had this past weekend. Geno Smith actually played well. 32 of 41, 328, 2 touchdowns. Didn't throw a pick. We're going to talk about the Lions defense in a little bit. He had a bounce-back game. I said this is a sneaky game. I actually picked the Lions to win by 4. I lost that one. But again, I said that this is a game that smells. I said 2. It could go either way, but I think the Lions being off 10 days would help them. I was wrong there. But I knew Seattle was a good team. This was a coin flip type of game too. I also mentioned I wasn't sure how the Lions were going to be off an emotional high going into Arrowhead and beating Kansas City. But they're learning. But that's going to be for the Lions. But as far as Seattle goes, this was a good bounce back spot. Kenneth Walker had 2 rushing touchdowns. Tyler Lockett, 8 catches, 54 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of my friends had him in fantasy. He shit talked my opponent, one of our friends in that league after he scored the second touchdown, but there was another game that caused him to lose, so I think he did it a little too early. But 8 catches, 54 yards, 2 touchdowns. That Seattle defense, 2 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. They're improving. I'm not going to say they're a great defense. But they're improving. And they need to improve because that secondary is getting better. They have a lot of nice young rising stars there. Their front four, they needed to improve to stop the run. They need some pass rush too up there. Bobby Wagner's back, who's a familiar quarterback in that defense that has basically been there almost his entire career outside of last year with the Rams. They'll be fine, but all they need to do is improve on that side of the ball. They'll be fine. Trey Brown had a 40-yard pick six, but they had 9 penalties, which is a lot. And usually when you get in that above 7 penalties range, that's a little too much. That can cost you a game depending on what those penalties are. So clean that part up, they'll be fine. But I had to make in the playoffs as a wild card. I'm not saying they're on the level with the 49ers in terms of winning that division, but they're a playoff team. I think they'll be okay. No way, though, are they right there with the Niners in terms of pecking order. But good bounce back spot. Great win on the road. Knew this was a weird game to just, I said it could go either way, too. That's how good these two teams both are. Which brings me to the Lions. This team has got to learn how to manage expectations. Learn how to deal with highs and lows. Because it was pretty evident last Sunday they were riding too high off the win in Kansas City. Okay? Couple moments here. Jared Goff, 28-35, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. I knew as soon as they brought up that interception, that pass streak without an interception, I was like, they're trying to put the jinx on him already. And that pick ended up being a huge difference in the game, although it wasn't the game-winning touchdown, but it was a key difference because it gave Seattle 7 points on the board. You lost by 6 in overtime. But it wasn't just a pick six that on Goff. I will not say that. David Montgomery, he had a fumble to start the second half. 16 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 catches, 102 yards. He's clearly their number 1 receiver. He's going to have a really good year. Josh Reynolds, 2 touchdowns. He's kind of their chain mover, makes some big plays. Sam Laporta's an up-and-coming star. Another one of those Iowa tight ends that just do great in the NFL. I think he's going to be a big part of their offense too. Raymond had a touchdown. And the defense, they didn't play that well this week. They did not play well this past week. 31 points allowed. They had 1 sack, which ended up being their only quarterback hit, which was a sack based on Alex Anzalone. That's going to be concerning because Aiden Hutchinson is going to be the guy they're going to game plan for up front. They need another guy that when the double teams go to Hutchinson, another guy's got to step up because Aiden Hutchinson is going to have a good year again. And they don't have that guy up front that can help them draw more attention opposite of Hutchinson or in the middle. They don't have that guy yet. But that's going to be a problem because that secondary, it's going to be better, but we saw just now they still have some lapses to overcome. We're going to talk about the Chiefs in a little bit, but the Chiefs receivers are not Seattle's receivers where they have Pro Bowlers. They have really good receivers over there. Smith and Jigba, Metcalf, Lockett are different than Rashee Rice, Tony, and Justin Watson, Sky Moore. They're talent-wise, Seattle's got better receiving core than Kansas City. They didn't answer the challenge with Seattle's receivers well, okay? And again, I'm going to mention this too. They had no takeaways. Turnovers dug them in. Missed opportunities dug you in again. Turnover on downs early in the game. It's 7-7. You're in field goal range. Kick the field goal. No, you get greedy, take the field. You get greedy and think, oh yeah, we can get a couple yards. And I know Dan Campbell's known for fourth down, going for it and all that stuff. At that situation, when it's tied at 7, take the 3. You miss it, the conversion on fourth down, and Seattle goes right down and scores. You kick a field goal in that situation, Seattle's got to go the length of the field. 75, 80 yards, most likely. You got to take the points on that board when it's there. Okay? In a tie ball game, you got to take that. If you're at like midfield, 40 yards, I wouldn't be opposed to it as much, but if you're in field goal range, take the 3. I mean, why are we oversimplifying it already? What it is? I know I sound like a... But still, why are you passing points on the board when they're right there? Just take it. I don't get that early fourth down call at all. They had the fumble to start the second half, I mentioned. Okay? They had one in a Hail Mary, but that was the end of the half. I mean, but they had a fumble to start the second half, leads to a Seattle touchdown. Okay? The pick 6, that was another difference in the ballgame right there. You basically gave the Seattle 7 points there. Okay? You lost by 6. You gave them 7. 1 of 3 on fourth down, 3 turnovers. That's what dug you guys in. Plus the defense not playing well. We know their offense is going to be, they're going to score, they're going to put points up. That defense and their ability to take care of the ball and be able to take points when they're there, that's what's going to concern me for a team that's kind of not sure how to manage highs and lows and expectations. That's a concerning problem to me. Chargers and the Titans. Justin Herbert, for the most part, played well outside of the overtime drive they had, which I'm going to get to in just a few seconds. Bear with me. He played well, Justin Herbert, outside of the overtime possession. Keenan Allen, 8 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Williams, I have him in fantasy, 8 catches, 83 yards. The defense had 5 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, no takeaways, and 24 is a lot, I know, but that Bosa and all those guys showed up. That offense, for the most part, scored points, except when they needed to make the big plays when they needed to. They didn't do that. 3 areas I'm going to point out to. First, let's get to the overtime possession. Kellen Moore, and I saw these 2 plays. Why are you throwing 2 plays out of bounds? Why are you throwing 2 plays out of bounds in overtime? I don't get it. That's why I said Justin Herbert played well up until overtime. Why are you throwing 2 balls out of bounds? Why? I just... Did you forget it was overtime? Like, that's the only other thing I could understand. 2 plays you throw out of bounds. What? I don't know what happened there. Really, I don't. And then, here's the other 2 things. They were 2 of 14 on third down, 2 of 5 in the red zone. Do you really expect to win games when you go 2 of 14 on third down and 2 for 5 in the red zone? All you need literally is 1 more of those drives that you missed to separate and win the game. No. You can't even get 1 of those possessions to go. No. And 2 of 14 on third down. I gotta ask this because I have Cowboy fans that came on the show earlier, and I asked them about how the loss of Kellen Moore would be. I know this is early. Are you kind of glad Kellen Moore is now there so you don't have to deal with those head-scratching play calls? Because this past game, there were some pretty shaky calls there where, especially on third down, where you're like, what are you doing? Now, I know their running game didn't play well without Austin Eckler, but still, to go 2 for 14 and 2 of 14 on third down and 2 of 5 in the red zone, no, that's not gonna do well for you there. That's not. And now Brandon Saile, I don't know if you guys saw the post-game interview. He's getting all feisty with reporters about is a letdown against Jacksonville in the playoffs last year, affecting your team as to why you're 0-2. And he got all feisty. Sounds like somebody's starting to feel the pressure up a little bit there because you're not handling things well. And this is why I took the Titans, because I knew between Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley against Mike Vrabel, they're going to botch, and Mike Vrabel's team's going to capitalize. That's why I said I liked the upset this past weekend. Because I just had this feeling, I'm like, yeah, the Chargers are the better team on paper, talent-wise. But Mike Vrabel is going to find a way to keep his team in the game, and they did that. They did that. Exactly. The Chargers did exactly what I thought they were going to do, and Mike Vrabel's team cashed in on those opportunities and won this game. I knew they would, and this is what I was counting on the Chargers to doing. I just had this feeling Staley and them are going to botch. Kellen Moore's going to just do some crazy call where you're like, what are you doing? And they're going to lose on the little things, and Vrabel and the Titans are going to win on the little things. And that's exactly what happened. So, Brandon Staley, the odds are, if he loses Sunday, he might get fired middle of the year. Because Sean Payton was right there. He was right there available. And I can imagine what Sean Payton would have did with these receivers and Eckler and Herbert. And he had a guy on his staff there, Joe Lombardi. And I think, no, they fired him. I'm sorry. They fired Joe Lombardi. So I'm saying if they hired Sean Payton, he would have had somebody on that staff he worked with in New Orleans. But no, they didn't go there. And now we're seeing that Brandon Staley is still not learning his lesson, it feels like. He might be fired midseason. But they missed a golden opportunity this offseason to get Sean Payton. They really did, and it's showing, I think. As far as the Titans go, Tannehill managed the game well. 20 of 24, 246 yards. He had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown. Derrick Henry was okay. Nothing amazing. 25 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, he was all right. He's not the running back from 4 or 5 years ago. Not even 3 years ago. But he's all right. He'll give you your touchdown inside the 5. Westbrook-Ikine had a touchdown too. That offensive line, though, I know they drafted Skoronski in this past draft. I like that pick. But that offensive line, 5 sacks allowed, they're going to get beat up front if they can't protect Tannehill well and open up holes for Henry. This line is not what it once was. They lost Nate Davis in the offseason too. Taylor Lewan they let go of. I don't think this offensive line is going to be able to hold up through the course of the season. I don't. The defense still gave up 24. They were able to get to Herbert 3 times. 7 penalties is a little too much on their part, I think. And I think that the Titans, I said they were going to beat a team like the Chargers. They'll be right there with Jacksonville, but I think by about, let's say, week 14, Jacksonville's going to pull away with that division. They're going to pull away with that division. And again, that's why I think Jacksonville, I'm not saying, I might have joked and said it was a walk in the park preseason when I'm looking at it, but realistically, Jacksonville should win the division by about week 15, I think. That's how I see it going down. Chiefs and the Jaguars. This game was the one I was watching at 1 o'clock. And I watched this game real closely because Chiefs got Chris Jones back just in time for this game. I kind of figured after the Lions lost, they were going to bring him in. And Kelsey, I had a feeling, was going to play too because they didn't want to be a team going down 0-2. But from how I saw this game, Mahomes just looked all right. He looked all right. And I know people are going to start looking other places because they don't want to blame the guy who cannot do anything wrong. The media is obviously looking at other things. I have a feeling where the scapegoats are going to start to be looked at. That's fine. But guess what? Not on my show. No. He played mid. Okay? He was all right. I'll talk about that one interception he threw in a second. He had 305 yards, 29 to 41, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Don't let that fool you. He played all right. They played all right. They were mid for most of the game. Pacheco basically carried their running game. If Pacheco wasn't there, their running game was terrible. He literally carried their running game, Pacheco. Sky Moore, 3 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Travis Kelce had a touchdown to open up the second half. Again, they have good receivers, but let's see how these guys do when they play really good defenses, because Jacksonville, to me, was an average to slightly below average on defense in the secondary. And they held you to 17 points? That throw in double coverage, the interception, that was bad. And you can't lie on that, because that was a bad... The safety does play it well, I will say it, but he had a corner underneath. He came over the top. He never makes those throws a lot, but there's times where if you bait him, he'll do it, because he feels like his arm strength can get there just enough in that window. That's where he's still got that gunslinger in him where he wants to force it. He will give you those picks from time to time. He will do that. You just have to make that look, disguise it a little bit. He has that ability still in him. I know he has it. But he's learned to be patient, which last year he was. But he's still got that, I want to throw it right there. And my arm strength's just enough there. Jacksonville's like, all right, we're going to show him a look. And they got it. They cashed in on it. But these receivers, I know they're going to look at it and be like, they can't get open well. They can't get downfield. Weren't these the same receivers you kind of won the Super Bowl with? Wasn't Kadarius Toney their emerging star last year? He's still there. Sky Moore's getting a bigger role. He's still there. He's learned the offense for a year now. Travis Kelce's obviously their alpha. Teams still can't take away him. They still can't. So don't tell me it's the receivers when they had a similar crew last year that got open for them just enough to win 13 games and win another Super Bowl. Don't tell me it's the receivers. No. The offensive line, Jaywan Taylor with the false start. He clearly jumped off sides a lot in the Lions game. You don't think the officials this game knew he has a tendency of jumping off early? Donovan Smith, you should have known what he was in Tampa. Come on now. And then, this one, this guy reminds me of somebody from last year. Matt Nagy is now the new coordinator for Bieniemy. Boy, do they miss Bieniemy. Because Matt Nagy, he's another one. He's way over his head. Okay? I'm going to bet you guys right now, Andy Reid takes over play calling mid-season. There's no way Matt Nagy's calling plays by week 9 or 10 of the season. No fucking shot Matt Nagy is still calling plays by mid-season. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way he's calling plays. Some of the play calls that Matt Nagy was calling, I'm like, no wonder why Justin Fields looked horrible his rookie year. No wonder why the Bears were able to botch games after the one good year they had. No wonder why. Because he's another one, like Nathaniel Hackett, way in over his head, and he sucks. He's horrible. He had one good year with the Bears as a head coach, the first year he got there. After that, they weren't that great. Yeah, he made the playoffs twice, but they weren't great after that first year. They just went down, down, and down. And now he's back with Andy Reid. But Andy Reid's going to say to him midseason, give me the play calling. I'm calling plays. Because this offense doesn't look good through 2 weeks. They don't look good. I will give you, they need to get in the rhythm. Here's the lucky thing they have. You've got the Bears. You've got the Jets with Zach Wilson. And you've got the Vikings. All of those teams are not really good in different ways, but you're lucky those are your next three. Because if it was anybody tougher, you would be in trouble. But you are so lucky you've got two 0-2 teams and a terrible quarterback situation sandwiched in between with Zach Wilson. You should win all 3 of those games. You really should. If you struggle with those 3, and this brings me to really my main point, they're not coming out of the AFC. If they're going to play like this, they're not. But because they're of the 3 teams they're playing next, they should be in a better rhythm. They should be able to get 30. But these receivers, they're not that good right now. And I said Kelsey's only going to get older. And now they're going to find out right now, everybody's got that game circled on their calendar in the offseason. We got them coming to our building. We got to play our Super Bowl, really. And they're going to get everybody's best swing. Okay? So, they don't look right. All those factors being said, I will say this. Their defense won them the game. It wasn't their offense. The defense won them the game. Okay? Because they gave up 9 points. They got 4 sacks. Karlaftis and Chris Jones were big in this game. 7 quarterback hits. But that offense, 4-13 on third down, 2-4 in the red zone. And get this, I didn't even mention this. 12 penalties for 94 yards. 12 penalties for 94 yards. Combined with that offense looking terrible. A lot of them were pre-snap penalties. I'm not going to panic if I'm the Chiefs. You know why? Because you got 3 cupcakes coming up. You should beat them. You should beat them. You have no excuse to not beat those 3 cupcakes. You don't. Don't start lining up scapegoats of Matt Nagy, the O-line, the receivers. Bullshit. You did the same stuff last year. But I will say this. You do miss Eric Bieniemy. They do miss Eric Bieniemy. Look at what he's doing with Washington right now. Look at what he's doing with Washington right now. You let him go. Big mistake. And Matt Nagy's way in over his head. Which brings me to Jacksonville. Very, very disappointed. Very disappointed. This was a game right there for you to upset the Chiefs and send them to 0-2. And every chance you had, you blew. 22 of 41 for 249. No, I'm looking at another game. 216 yards, 22 of 41, 216 yards for Trevor Lawrence. That was not a good offensive showing at all. Christian Kirk, 11 for 110 yards. The defense. If you were to tell me before this game started that the Chiefs offense would be held to 17 points with Patrick Mahomes starting, I would have said, oh, I could get 20. I could get 20. I would have said that. I would have loved my chances. Your defense played well this game. But you keep but your offense didn't show up. Your offense let you down this game. Now, I think their running game, they abandoned too quickly. I think they had 18 times they ran the ball? 18 times? To 41 passes. I think Doug Peterson's getting a little too pass happy. That's, I think, what kind of did him in Philly. They tried to throw the ball with all those receivers that they had over there, and they completely... ETN's a good running back. Why are they running the ball only 18 times? For the most part, it was within single digits. Your defense is keeping you in the game. Keep Mahomes on the sidelines. Why? And then the 4th down conversions. I'm going to get there. Doug Peterson literally goes for 4th and 5 in midfield. What do? You give Mahomes great field position. What do? They take it right down and score before the half. And they got the second half kickoff. And that was the turning point in the game. When you go for a 4th down from the 40-yard line and you don't get it. And you give them a short field and they score and they take the second half kickoff too and score as well. Other than that, they didn't really do much. They got 1 sack, the defense, 4 quarterback hits. Not bad. 2 fumble recoveries, an interception they got 2. They were 3 of 12 on third down on offense, 0 of 2 on the money down, 0 for 3 in the red zone. I know they're a young team. You had them exactly where you wanted them. And you couldn't score in the red zone. You couldn't get a third down when you needed it to. And you gave them the ball in midfield, and they scored. And you can't even get in the end zone. I understand a couple of throws were not, they were just a little bit over, they were just a little bit too much towards the back of the end zone. I understand that. And the receivers just didn't have enough time to get their feet in. I know that, but still, this was a game for you to beat the champs in your building, and you blew it because of the little things you couldn't do right. And you don't give the ball to ETN more in the game. 18 runs to 41 passes. You had him. 17, you held Mahomes and company. Most teams would win in that situation. They didn't. Terrible missed out. This was a blown opportunity for the Jags. It was there. It was there. Miami, New England. Yes, I'm talking about this game because I have a lot to say on this, okay? Because the 4 o'clock games, I know Denver and Washington was the most competitive one. It was close to making my list, but I got to shorten up the games because we got to get into some other things. But that was close. Dallas, I think we all knew they would smoke the Jets. That's why I'm not talking about them much this week. But let's get to Miami, New England, because this is something I have to get off my chest, and this is a game I need to talk about right now. Tua, 21 of 30, 249 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He played well for the most part. He threw the ball in some really small spaces when the DB was trailing the receivers. I mean, we know he's accurate. We know he can throw accurate. We know he can. He basically is a short to intermediate thrower. Nothing wrong with his game. It's just that's what he is. Okay? And he was accurate with the ball. I'll give you that. He played, I mean, outside of the one pick where Christian Gonzalez did make a nice, he did bait him really nicely and closed out on the ball and picked Tyreek up. That was the only throw he really screwed up on. But that's the only knock on his game. He can't throw the deep ball well. It's just, if you're a coach looking at the game, you're looking at it like, all right, yeah, he's accurate from short and intermediate range, but his deep ball, yeah, he can throw it well, but he doesn't have enough arm to throw it deep all the time. That's the one thing you have to look at as a coach and say, his deep ball is really the only thing. I would kind of try to bait him to beat me deep. And if he beats me deep, that's it. And that was the only one where he really didn't throw it with enough velocity on it. Gonzalez made a nice play on it. I'll give you that. But other than that, he played well. I mean, that was the one throw where he didn't look. That didn't look good to me. Raheem Mostert, 18 carries for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. We made Raheem Mostert look like Larry Zonka out there, even though Larry Zonka was more of a power back and stuff. But you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. I mean, just when I thought the run D was improving from last year, no, they turn right back around and they give him 121 yards on 18 carries. And 2 scores he gets on us. Jalen Waddle, 4 catches for 86 yards. Tyreek Hill, 5 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown. If you were to tell me we're holding Tyreek to 5 for 40 yards, I would have been like, ooh. And John Jones, our top corner, isn't playing. And if you were to tell me that, I would have been like, wow. Our defense is really good. But we give up 121 on the ground, 128 on the ground. 121, I meant. And 2 touchdowns, I would be like, oh, shit. We're in trouble because we can't stop the run. The defense, I told you guys before last week, I knew they'd be improved. 17 points allowed, and they got 4 sacks. They got 8 quarterback hits. I kind of figured they would be better because our offensive line is a downgrade compared to the Chargers line. Xavier Howard had a pick, but some of the late end of the game miscues when they were up, they had the block field goal, they had the missed field goal, and they had the pick. Not in that direct order, but those 3 opportunities, they should have blown us out by the third quarter. They really should have. This game should not have been as close as it was. Again, the blocked field goal, I will say that was nice. The missed field goal was a long field goal. The interception, that was a bad throw by 2. This should not have been as close as it ended up being. This really should not have been. And they kept letting us hang around. But again, I give them, again, they played better than we did because we couldn't stop the run and just, he was accurate too. I give him that. So, again, just 6 penalties, though, is a little on the fringe. It's a little too, not a little too much, but that's going to get cleaned up a little bit. But again, Miami did just enough to win, and I kind of figured this was going to be the case. That's why I was a little hesitant on picking my team this last game. But let me get into my team now, because this is... Where do I begin, man? Mac Jones, 31 of 42, 231 yards, touchdown, and interception. First of all, I'm going to say the same thing that I said last week. Same shit, just a different season, just a different year. Same shit, different year. That's the motto. And before I dive into my team a little bit more, I have repeatedly called the Giants an accident waiting to happen. I have repeatedly said that what can go wrong will go wrong. I am officially changing that to a different team today. That title now belongs to my own team. As sad and as shameful and as sorry as that is, we have taken over now as the new accident waiting to happen. And what can go wrong, goes wrong. Yup, I am officially removing that from the Giants and giving it to my own team, because we have one up them in the last 4 years. We have one up them. Because, once again, we do things that you just know it's going to happen. You know it pregame it's going to happen. And they happen. I'll get to the turnovers in a second. Ramondre Stevenson, they couldn't run the ball against Miami. I kind of knew Vic Fangio was going to play, all right, we're going to make this kid beat us. They weren't scared of Mac Jones. I knew it, because it's not just Mac Jones. They weren't scared of the other guys that he has around him to say, yeah, let's let one of them beat us. He knew it. That's why Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. Okay? He knew it. Nobody scared him. Hunter Henry on the touchdown. Realistically, I was shocked they didn't call a flag on it, because there was an illegal man downfield, they said, and they missed it. But, again, he scored. Offensive line, we've seen its rare, ugly head view itself. 4 sacks they had on us. And Vic Fangio had a lot of nice, timely blitz calls. I give him that, okay? But I knew he was going to look at that line. And that offense, again, I'm going to go big picture on this in a little bit. I knew this was going to happen. He was going to find ways to get pressure up the middle, Chubb one-on-one. I was shocked Jalen Phillips was out. But yet, still, we can't take advantage of shit like this. Defense, 24 they gave up. 1 sack, only 2 hits on Tua. 1 sack and 2 quarterback hits, bro. Shame. Christian Gonzalez is the only kid on defense. And Judon, I gotta be fair, Judon. The only 2 guys I'm glad are on the defense. Kyle Duggar too, actually. I forgot about Kyle Duggar. Those 3. Everybody else, I don't know about you right now. Those 3 guys. But Kyle Duggar hasn't done a lot yet, but I'm confident he's going to be really good as the season goes on. Those are about the only 3. Duggar, Gonzalez, Judon. I'm glad we have them on our defense. Everybody else, I'm not sold on any of you. Nope. John Jones, when he plays, I would probably put him at 4. But once again, the New England Patriots have turned into what can go wrong, will go wrong. The fumble, Demario Douglas, was good for us in preseason. A lot of camp buzz. But of course, when the big games are on, the big lights are on, gets blindsided, popped from behind, fumble, and doesn't play the rest of the game. Where have I seen this movie before? Oh, wait. Last year, well, we didn't play Kendrick Bourne. Yeah, I remember. I've seen it before too with other guys. One fumble, they say, yep, you're done for the game. Wow. And they say we could have needed some big plays, and everybody's saying, yeah, he should have been in the game more for big plays. Still, that's another reason, which we'll get into big picture in a little bit. Interception, and I'm going to be honest here. Mac Jones, you should know this. You should know this. That's their best corner. You tried him last year. Same kind of situation, except this was more one-on-one than the last time you played Miami early in the season. You can't throw it his direction. You don't have a one where you can test him. Devontae Parker, I know he's trying to give his guy a chance, and he's the bigger receiver on Howard. I understand that. But in that situation, when you're moving the ball well, you do not test him. You let somebody else beat you. Whether it's Cam Smith, the rookie from South Carolina, you let somebody else beat you. You don't let Xavier Howard beat you. And you're moving the ball nice. Don't throw his way. And he's got to learn this. But he doesn't have a one to help him out. Devontae Parker's good. He's not a one at this point in his career. He's a two. Okay? You cannot test him in that situation. Especially last year, you should have known too. You tried to test him, but the difference was you had a safety over the top. Last year, week 1 in Miami, same situation. He tipped it to the safety for a pick last year. This time, one-on-one, he out-hustles him for the ball. You cannot try him in that situation. That's their best defensive back. You let anybody else beat you. And I'm sure they might have told him this in the meetings because Jalen Ramsey was out. In that case, Ramsey would have been the guy. But Xavier Howard in this game, he was the guy you don't throw the ball anywhere near in that situation. Unless you have a bona fide number one where you are confident he can beat him one-on-one. You don't have that. The turnover on downs. This is comical. Remember the last time we lateraled? How did that go? I'm not going to lie to you people. I turned the game off after the rushing touchdown by Mostert. I didn't want to watch the rest of the game. I was playing MLB The Show on my PlayStation 5. I look at my phone to see if the game ended because I'm like, please tell me it's over. I see we're down 7. And we're moving the ball. I'm like, shit, am I really going to have to watch this? So I turn the game back on, my phone. And I watch and I see us moving and I'm like saying to myself, you know what's going to happen. You know they're going to come up short like they always do. I see a lateral and I go, did we not learn from last year? And all I keep hearing the commentators, Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth saying, oh, that was a great effort. Wow, I can't believe he got lateral then. And it came just so close. Hold on a minute. Time out. This is the National Football League, right? Last I checked, you don't get participation trophies and ribbons for coming up short. This isn't horseshoe. No. This isn't darts. Okay? This is not participation trophies where you're like, you get a trophy, you get a ribbon because you were so close. This is the National Football League. This is the NFL. There's no such thing as participation trophies and coming oh so close. Unless you're the Titans and Rams where you're 1 yard shy. We were 35 plus yards away from scoring. That's not close. Okay? No. You're not going to use that on me. No. When did we get so, when did we get to the point where participation trophies and shit for getting so close mattered? When did that even come close? The Niners-Ravens Super Bowl was 5 yards out. That's close. Okay? The Rams-Titans with Mike Jones on Kevin Dyson. That's close. Not this! Which brings me to something I actually did for the first time ever. I made an in-game tweet. Paraphrasing it. I said on Loungetime Pod Twitter account, follow it if you actually want to get our updates too. I make some Thursday night picks on there. I said, paraphrasing, When are we going to start blaming Bill Belichick for ruining the New England Patriots offense? Get Mac Jones a number 1 wide receiver. This team will not go anywhere at this rate. Paraphrasing what I said on the tweet. You can go look it up if you really, really get ambitious. That's what I said. I had 3 people like it. I had a couple people view it. Okay? I made my first in-game tweet because I was like, you know what? There's no way I'm the only one making this show that believes this. There's no way. There's no way. And again, once again, if this was any other coach that had these close games and the turnovers and all that stuff, we'd be calling for him to be fired. But because it's Belichick and the reputation he has, they're not going to do it. They're not going to. But once again, and I'll say this during the picks, actually. I'm going to wait to save it during the picks. I want to get to Browns Steelers because there are some things here. Browns and the Steelers. First of all, I want to get the most important thing out of the way. Nick Chubb, I wish you a speedy recovery. That was a very unfortunate situation that happened. Gruesome injury. Don't watch it. Okay, if you haven't seen it, I really advise you not to watch it. It's bad. I didn't watch it live. I was doing some other stuff at the time, and it's sad because this is another big running back. I actually, for the record, was about to pick him for my Offensive Player of the Year choice before he got hurt. I actually had him as my Offensive Player of the Year to win it because I thought he was going to play for the late, great Jim Brown. Cleveland was a run-heavy team. I was like, you know what? I think he's going to have a really, really good season. Lead the league in rushing. Yeah, I had him very high on my Offensive Player of the Year pick. And it's sad it ends in 2 games. And I wish him a speedy recovery. It sucks that he's out because this was a guy I actually was about to pick on fantasy teams this year. I didn't because I actually had a better pick in my draft. But, oh man, it sucks, man, because he's another really good player that I like watching. And he was a guy that I had as my Offensive Player of the Year candidate. But now I'm going to have to change that. Deshaun Watson, 22 of 40, 235 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Man, he doesn't look the same. This is what almost 2 years of sitting out looks like. Really 3. You played 6 games last year, but really it feels like you've sat out for 3 years and you look like a shell of yourself now. You didn't look good, Deshaun. You did not. 235 yards, touchdown and a pick. Jerome Ford, I will say this for the Browns. He looks like a really promising running back 1. 16 carries, 106 yards, a touchdown catching out of the backfield. Amari Cooper, 7 for 90 yards. That offensive line in Cleveland, oh my God, they got whooped. 6 sacks allowed they gave up. 6 sacks allowed. Oh, no, that's... Oh, man, they're in for a rough week with Tennessee coming up. Defense, they did everything in their power to win them the game. 14 points allowed. They got 2 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, an interception. Cleveland did everything defensively to keep them in this game, despite what I'm going to say about the Steelers in just a few seconds. But Cleveland, this is where the missed opportunities kick in. The pick 6 to start the game, bad start. Really bad start. The missed field goal. Fumble for a touchdown inside the 5. Can't have that happen. And the turnover on downs to end the game. Those missed opportunities really did you in. But between the line play, Deshaun not playing well, the missed opportunities, it was a disaster. The fact you're in 4 points is a miracle. But that defense in Cleveland so far through 2 weeks is improved. And they did everything to win that game defensively, except the offense selling them. That's what happened. 5 of 16 on third down, 0 of 2 on the money down, killer. 8 penalties and 4 turnovers. The Cleveland Browns blew a big opportunity to go into Pittsburgh and go 2-0, and they just really sold so bad. Which brings me to the Steelers. First, I need to say this before I go in depth. I'm hearing a lot of Steelers fans blame Matt Canada for the play calling. I agree to an extent. Except let me remind you of a key difference between your situation right now versus our situation last year, meaning my New England Patriots situation. I need this to be very clear. At least you have credible skill position players that are respectably in the top 15 to 20 at their position. George Pickens is a top 20 receiver. Najee Harris, despite what he is right now, is still a top 15 running back in the league. Okay? Deontay Johnson is still maybe a top 30 to 40, maybe 50 receiver. Okay? Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth are good tight ends. They might be in the top 15 to 20, maybe 25. I'm stretching that. They're not bad skill position players. But you have at least a quarterback that's promising and has a lot to work with. We had a defensive coach calling plays for us last year with no skill players that are in the top 50 at their respective positions. So don't start complaining to me about coordinator situation just yet. Because at least you have skill players to work with. We had no skill position players to work with, and we had a defensive coach calling offensive plays last year. Don't start that shit right now. Okay? You're in a different situation than what we were last year. Need to get that out of the way. Okay? Debate me all you want. Okay? You have credible skill players to work with. We didn't last year. We still don't. Kenny Pickett, 15 of 30 yards, 222 yards. Played all right. He had the touchdown to Pickens. 4 catches, 127 yards, touchdown. I'm glad I have him on my fantasy team. Defense, though, won you the game. 6 sacks, 11 quarterback hits. They got 2 touchdowns that were big. They picked up for the offense. Pittsburgh's got a top 10 defense. They got a top 10 defense. They had momentum last year that they built off of. They got a top 10 defense. Okay? They can get after the quarterback. They can make takeaways. They got it all. Okay? Highsmith had the pick 6 to open the game. TJ Watt had the fumble for a touchdown. Like I said, Pittsburgh, defensively, they got a top 10 defense. They are going to be a big part as to why they win games. That offense, it's 2 weeks. Let's see by about week 11, week 12, where they're at. But don't start complaining to me about anything about coordinator change right now until we get to week 11, week 12. You're in a way different situation than we were in last year, okay? Need to get that out there. All right, so that's the week 2 action that I went over. I want to talk about the Giants-49ers game first real quick, okay? And I got to say this was comical, okay? You know I wasn't going to let you off the hook, Giants fans. Oh, no, I was going to let you off the hook today. Nope, because I want to talk about this game. I had Giant fans that I text that watch the show, and they religiously told me that Daniel Jones is the guy. And I thought this conversation that I had leading up into the game was very, very comical, right? And I asked an honest question. I said, is Daniel Jones worth being a top 10 paid quarterback in the league? Because at that point, before he signed his contract, there were 2 quarterbacks making more than he was. I believe, don't quote me accurately on this, I think Deshaun Watson was one, which was fully guaranteed. And I don't remember if it was Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers. It was one of those 2 that were in the top 2 highest paid quarterbacks before him. Okay? Daniel Jones' contract comes in and gets $47 million. Yes, he's got $47 million this year he's making. Okay? And I asked him, I said, do you think he's deserving of top 10 quarterback paid in the league? And you know what he says to me? Well, if the fan base is excited to watch him, yeah, then he's worth it. Really? And I couldn't stop. I tried so hard not to laugh. And I'll put him on blast because he's got to come on Loungetime and make an appearance. He needs to come on Loungetime to explain that blasphemous that I had to hear before the game. If he excites the fan base and gives you hope, he's worth that money. Daniel Jones is that, huh? Let me repeat his stats. 22 of 32 for 137 yards and an interception. Yeah, he excites the fan base and he gives you hope. Yeah, that's what makes him worth top 10 quarterback money. Compared to a lot of other guys, that's not the definition of that. Oh no. There's no way I heard these words. I couldn't stop laughing. I was trying to hold it because I was trying to hold my laughter because I was like, there's no way. He's got to be setting me up for something, right? No way. Matt Breida had their only touchdown. Backup running back for Saquon Barkley. The defense had 2 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. Kept them mostly in it. They got some stops, led to field goals, right? 2 sacks, quarterback hits. That's not bad against the Niners, right? 0 takeaways, though. But your offense, once again, sells you once again. 3 of 12 on third down. I know receivers were dropping passes. Okay? I know the O-line was bad. But I said in my tweet, they should manhandle you guys 31-7. I was 1 point off, and they had scored a little bit more than 7 points. I didn't expect that. But I knew they were going to get blown out. They had no chance in this game. And I said to them, too, you do know you're going to have to block Nick Bosa in that up front, right? You know you're not going to be able to block him. Okay? What are you going to do with those Debo, Kittle, C-Max? What are you going to do about them? What are you going to do about them? They don't have the secondary to do it. Some guy, Ronnie Bell from Michigan, was tearing him up. Tearing him up. A rookie 7th-round receiver. Tearing him up. Interesting. Debo Samuel, well, I'm going to get to the Niners actually right now. 25-37, Brock Purdy. 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. McCaffrey, 85 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Debo, 6 for 129 in the score. I talked about Bell with the touchdown, destroying those rookie DBs. Kittle, 7 for 90. I mean, the Niners, all they did was reinforce my point as to why they're a Super Bowl team and why the Giants don't belong in the same class with them. They don't. And this is something that I think all Giants fans can be honest here. When you have to play teams with a deep defensive line, the Eagles, Dallas, and San Francisco was a recent example, they struggle. They struggle with teams that have a deep defensive line that are good in both the run and the passing game. They cannot beat any of those teams. Dallas, Philly, and San Francisco are the elite of the NFC, which shows, once again, they are not in their same class. They're not built to beat those teams. Okay? But at the end of the day, Daniel Jones threw for 137 yards against the Niners defense, which is what we figured he would do because he's not that good. You have a slightly better receiving core than you had last year. Waller and Hyde are the only 2 big names that you added. Everybody else, you're basically swapping average Joes for average Joes. Okay? The offensive line, it's the same line you had last year that made a deep playoff run. You keep telling me he's the future. Why can't he make it work? You knew the offensive line was bad, but what did I tell you all along? You play the big boys, Dallas, San Francisco, Philly up front. You're not blocking them. You're not blocking those guys because they have multiple pass rushers that can get to them, and you're not going to be able to block all of them. You can't. You're not built for that yet. No. And this is why they get blown off the door. Okay? That's it. And the Niners defense held them to 12 points, 2 sacks, an interception. That's why the Niners are the best defense in the league. They take advantage of bad quarterbacks. They beat you into bad decisions. They get after you with just 4. They can blitz from time to time. And they got great players all across the levels. Fred Warner, Armstead, Hargrave, Bosa. Charvarius Ward's good. I wouldn't say great, but he's good. Hufanga at safety. I mean, come on. They're deep. They're the best. They are literally loaded top to bottom. They showed me once again why they're my Super Bowl pick to come out of the NFC and win it all. All right. Those are the recaps. I know I've rambled, so now I think what we're going to do is I think we're going to move my players to next week since I was rambling about a lot of these games. So, all right, we're going to go rapid fast. Week 3 picks, starting with the Patriots and the Jets. If we lose to the Jets, I'm making this announcement. I am not watching another Patriot game this season if we lose to the Jets and Zach Wilson. I will not watch another game this season if we lose to Zach Wilson. No joke, I won't. Because I know who we play next. And we're losing that game too. This game, though, this is purely out of pride. Because if Belichick is what we know he's going to do, and this offense can be somewhat what we believe it should be, they got to get to 23. And they got to hold Zach Wilson under 20. They have to. So I got New England 23-13 over the Jets. If we lose to Zach Wilson and the Jets, I'm not watching another Patriot game this season. I'm not. Okay? Browns-Titans. Coin flip game. I wanted to take the Titans again. I could see them winning. But I'm going to take Cleveland for this reason. Tennessee's line's equally as bad. They couldn't block the Chargers. Cleveland's got a good defense. They've been showing promise. Okay? And I think that Tennessee, that's going to be interesting. They're a good run defense against the Browns' running offense. But it's going to come down to the Browns' skill guys. And I think Amari Cooper, he could have a really nice game. So I'm going with Cleveland in a close game, 20-17 over the Titans. Lions-Falcons. Atlanta's been playing very tough these first 2 weeks, and they're 2-0. I do think the Lions have a perfect bounce-back opportunity here. I think the Lions are technically better than Atlanta. I just think the gap between Jared Goff and Desmond Ridder is noticeable, and I think Detroit's going to have their way offensively, and I think the Lions' defense, they're going to have to key on Bijan and let somebody else, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, beat them. And those skill guys in Atlanta, they don't go off, but they could go off, but again, I just don't see it happening this week. I'm going Detroit 28, Atlanta 21. Saints-Packers. How is this a pick'em? Jordan Love is shit-talking already after one win against the Bears, who literally have been owned by them the last 30 years. And you're shit-talking after one win. Because I saw the soundbite with him and Grady Jarrett. Bro, the Falcons are different than the Bears. You don't deserve to be shit-talking after one win, okay? Chill out, Jordan Love. No. The wrong team is favored. The Saints are going to win this game, 26-14. Derek Carr is better than Jordan Love. The defense is better than Green Bay. And Green Bay is the most penalized team in the NFL through 2 weeks. Saints, 26-14 over the Packers. Miami and Denver. If Denver gave up 35 to Washington, what do you think Miami's going to do? In Miami. And you got to travel across the country. Down south. Give me Miami, 35-24 over Denver. Vikings and Chargers. Pick'em game, as it should be. I think both offenses are going to have a big day. Both defenses have glaring weaknesses. And I think it's going to come down to which team can take care of the ball and not make mistakes. And I think it's the Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to win this game, 30-27. And I think the Chargers are going to fall to 0-3. And we're going to have a serious conversation of, is Brandon Saile getting fired midseason? Because I think this team's falling apart. And there's a reason I didn't take them to go to the playoffs. So I'm taking the Vikings 30-27 over the Chargers. Bills and Commanders. I don't think this is double digits. I could see it though. But something tells me Washington's going to keep it closer than people think. I know Buffalo's favored by 6. I could see Washington hanging around. Bills will cover, but they won't win by double digits, I don't think. I'm going Buffalo 31-23 over Washington. I think Bieniemy's going to have a couple plays up his sleeve to keep Washington in this game. Not saying they'll win or not an upset, but Washington's going to play tough in this game. This is a big game for them, okay? Jaguars and Texans. Texans cannot protect C.J. Stroud. I don't trust their running game. I think Stroud's in for a long day. Jacksonville coming off a really bad offensive showing. They're lucky they're playing the Texans, all right? I think DeMeco Ryans will have some nice calls up, ready to go, confuse Trevor Lawrence, but I think the Jags will get through enough, no problem. I like the Jaguars 27-10 over the Texans. Ravens-Colts. Anthony Richardson's out, concussion, and Gardner Minshew's in. Jonathan Taylor's also out. He didn't play the first 2 weeks either. Even though the Ravens are missing 7 starters, give me the Ravens 31-14 over the Colts. Seahawks, Panthers. Bryce Young, not expected to play. I almost took him for my survivor pool. I didn't do it just because Carolina did go into Seattle last year and beat them, but I think Seattle's better equipped this time to beat them at home. I like Seattle 27-13 over the Panthers. They should beat Andy Dalton and them convincingly. Chiefs and the Bears. My lock of the week. Have you seen all the shit that's going on out in Chicago right now? Justin Fields blaming his coaching staff for giving him too much information. The defensive coordinator's got a problem. He's gone. I mean, the Bears are just a wreck. If you don't put 30 points up on Chicago and blow the doors off them in Arrowhead, then there's something really wrong in Kansas City. But Kansas City should absolutely smoke this team with no issue whatsoever. 30-6 over the Bears. And yes, I have Justin Fields starting in fantasy, but I might change that. 30-6 Chiefs over the Bears. Cowboys, Cardinals. Trayvon Diggs being out is a big blow to the Cowboys. But, in my opinion, this week, Dallas should be still fine. The Cardinals will not be able to block Micah Parsons. And I don't think they're going to have an answer for him And even if they double team him, they're not going to have an answer for those other pass rushers. Shutout again. Cowboys, 42. Cardinals, 0. Book it. Steelers, Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not there with Vegas. They couldn't cover Buffalo, like I said last week. I don't think that they're going to be all that. I think offensively they could score a little bit on Pittsburgh, and I think because of the shaky play calling Matt Canada has, they might keep them in the game. But Pittsburgh should win because I think they're not going to be able to block TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. I don't think they're going to be able to block them. It's going to come down to, can they double team Devontae Adams and let somebody beat him? I think Mike Tomlin's a smart defensive coach to know that. I got Pittsburgh winning close, 23-20 over Vegas. Eagles, Bucks. Philly's had almost 2 weeks of rest. Tampa has played the Bears and the Vikings, a combined 0-4. Philly has a deep defensive line. They're going to get after Baker Mayfield. They're going to take away the run. And they're going to turn Baker Mayfield back into the average quarterback that he is. 31-10, Philly over Tampa. Rams-Bengals. If Joe Burrow's not playing, I'm taking the Rams. 23-10 over the Bengals. The Rams have been competitive through 2 weeks. I liked what I've seen. I didn't think they would hang tough with the 49ers. They ended up losing by 7. I think they're going to beat the Bengals if Joe Burrow's not playing. So give me the Rams 23-10 over the Bengals. All right, so those are my Week 3 picks for the week. Hopefully we can get back on track and have another good week, hopefully. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Loungetime. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm actually going to save my offensive player of the, my individual player awards for another episode since we're running out of time. And guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get all of our notifications so that way you can get all the latest updates that you need for the upcoming episodes as the season rolls on. Make sure you guys follow at Loungetime Pod if you guys want to follow my Thursday night picks on there and some other in-game tweets that I might have when I'm watching some games. Trying to build another audience in there too. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Loungetime. Hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. I will see you guys next week on the next episode of Loungetime. Have a great weekend, everybody.